It's time for another verb of the day. Today's verb is try. Let's look at some definitions. The first and most common way you will hear the word try used is to attempt to do or accomplish. The second way you might hear the word try used is to mean to use or test something new or different in order to see if it is suitable, effective, or pleasant. Try the strawberry dessert is an example of that. Here, I want to see if someone likes maybe what I've made. The third definition is to attempt to contact someone. And I have another example of this. I tried her cell phone, but she didn't answer. So I attempted to call, but no one picked up. The fourth definition, and you might be more likely to read this in a newspaper article, is to examine in a court of law. And I'll give you an example of this. They will try the case in Marshall County. So this just means the government will go before a judge in this particular location. Try is a regular verb. If we want to make the progressive form, all we need to do is add ing at the end. To make the past tense and participle forms, we have to make a small spelling change because this word ends in consonant, then Y. So we're going to change the Y to an I and then add ed. So the past and participle forms of try are tried with a good D sound on the end. Let's look at some phrasal verbs next. The first phrasal verb I have for you is to try one's hand at, and it means to attempt something new. Let's look at an example. I've never played piano, but I'll try my hand at learning how to play. What's really common with this phrasal verb is to see possessive adjectives right before hand, that part here. And we want to make sure those possessive adjectives match the subject. So here, if I change my subject to she has never played piano, but she'll try her hand at learning how to play. Another phrasal verb that you might hear is try for. And it means that you are making an attempt to get or win something. I have two example sentences for this. I'm going to try for the job. Will he try for first prize? So both of these are describing attempts. The third phrasal verb is try something on. And it means to put on clothes to test the fit, examine the appearance, make sure you like something before you buy it, essentially. And that's my example sentence. She tried the dress on before buying it. The next phrasal verb I have is try out. And it means to test someone or something. And my example sentence is something I believe I heard yesterday while watching the news. Doctors are trying out new treatments in the fight against the pandemic. The last phrasal verb I have is try out for. And it means to be tested for a team or an activity. Here's an example of that. Did you try out for the musical? So in this example, someone is hoping to get a part or a role in a musical production. Let's use the word try and practice giving advice today. So there are a few different ways we can give advice. We're going to start on the left with probably the most common way you will hear people give advice, and it's using the modal should. This modal stays the same no matter what the subject is, And to give affirmative advice, so telling someone to do something, we're going to put the base verb right after should. So you can see in the example there, you should try on those shoes. Maybe that's advice I'm giving to my friend as we're shopping, and she's thinking about buying a new pair of shoes. Okay. We can give sort of negative advice where we're advising someone not to do something. So here is some other advice that is in this form. They shouldn't try to run a marathon without training. So a marathon is 26.2 miles. That is something you want to practice and train for before attempting. So to give that negative advice, all I did is put not right between should and the base verb. If I want to make a question, all I need to do is change the order of my modal and the subject. Here's an example. Should I try a new recipe tonight? Another way you might hear people give advice is with the phrase ought to. And what you're going to notice here is we really only use ought to in the affirmative. We do not use it in the negative, and we do not use ought to with questions. Let's look at an affirmative example. He ought to try the salad. And there's something else I want to point out about ought to, and that is when a native speaker says it, it might sound like oughta, oughta. Right? Put the phonetic pronunciation right below that phrase so you could see it. Some people use oughta in their text messages, and it's understood, but it is also not formal or proper English. So I wouldn't use that spelling in a formal setting. Okay. The last way we can give advice is using had, better, and a base verb. And this is generally considered very strong advice. And when we use had, better, we're implying that something bad is going to happen if you do not take this advice. So let's look at an affirmative example. She had better try out for the team or she'll regret it. So there's that consequence. Okay? We can make had better negative. And so all we're going to do is put not between the better and the base verb. Here's an example of that. You'd better not try drugs, right? Because there are awful consequences to that. We do not use had better with questions. So anytime you want to ask a question that is asking for advice, use should. Okay. Finally, let's look at some related words for try. We've been talking about how try is a verb, but try can also be a noun, and it means an effort to accomplish something or an attempt. Here I've used try as a noun in this sentence. Give the new game a try. One way you might be able to see that try is a noun here is because the article a is right before it. Another noun connected to try and connected to one of our phrasal verbs is try out. It means a trial or a test to determine fitness for some purpose. Here's an example. The tryout for the soccer team is on Friday. The last word I'm going to leave you with today is retry. This is a verb. The prefix re or re means many times that we're trying something again. And that's the definition here, to try something again to see if it is successful, working, or satisfactory. Here's an example sentence. She retried installing the computer program. In this instance, the first time our subject here tried to install the program, it probably didn't work. So that's why she is retrying to install the program. Thanks so much for tuning in today. I hope you'll give the verb try a good try in your reading, writing, speaking, and listening. Have a great day.